welcome to Monday. All right, so I did some things after the last stream on Wednesday, although largely I think I'm going to pick up where we left off. The main thing I'll show, so this is the stuff we're going to do today. So just where we left off, I want to finish off this PR with a bunch of small improvements that are going to improve reading the book. But I also started working on some sparse text detection. So what that looks like, I can just share that real quick before diving in, is, where are we? Oh, well, I did switch back here. So let me do, yeah, let's rebuild and run a single test. Yeah, let's do that. And then while that's running, I'll show this. So yeah, there's basically, like, one of the challenges we have is like what I call the new chapter scenario. So this is a new chapter. This is a small amount of text. This is a decent amount of text, but there's a huge break here. And so what ends up happening is we end up kind of losing, let's see here. We basically end up with, like, we detect something like that. And the way the app works today, that ends up being too small for us to consider. Actually, so this is done running. Okay, so here's what it's like today. This is the current version of the app when this runs. So we end up doing this block technique to detect these text regions, which is very fast and works really well compared to other methods that I've done in the past. But this is what we basically end up with. We filter out all the noise. We end up with this block here and that block there, which is pretty good. I mean, I guess technically, yeah, let me go back. Yeah, I mean, if we filtered down and we said that, like, I mean, I don't know. My one thought was I could do some basic logic and say that get me all, because this will be an array list, right? We'll have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So we'll have 6 or 7 blocks in this array. And we want the biggest ones. And the biggest ones end up being these two. But what I could say is like, hey, let's go through all the big ones as long as the width is correct, right? As long as the width is significant, then maybe we can merge these two together. And then that's like one of the things I'm trying to do. So basically imply that these two should belong together and treat them as one bigger block. Well, let me go back on that. And then since this would be page 1 and this is page 2, which we detect correctly today, we could say that, hey, like the start of the Y on page 1 should also be the start on page 2 and vice versa, which would basically expand this to be this whole page and expand this to be this whole page. And that may actually perform better. Right now, like, we end up like spinning it and doing some weird garbage. The experiments I was doing, though, were not directly, I mean, they're kind of related to this. But here's like the first experiment. So instead, like downscaling the image, grayscaling it, doing a mask. And then this is interesting that this edge detection ends up finding these really crisp lines. It actually kind of looks pretty cool. It's a nice visual effect. But we end up effectively finding the text in that way, which is cool. And then we dilate it. We do some merging. So you can see like those gaps, like a lot of my current techniques, if you've got gaps like this, we don't end up treating it as a block of text. So this closes it up, which is pretty good. Although here we've got a connection at the bottom, which is bad. And again, we still have the same problem where we wouldn't be able to merge them together. But this like effectively is finding all that stuff. But again, we narrow it down to this one block, which is not the greatest. And then again, we got the same problem where never end. I think that's up here. This, yeah. Oh, because it's not actually using it. We're still kind of using the other method. Anyway, so that's the one approach I'm taking to try to see if I can resolve that issue. And then the other one is here. Here's the other version of it. So I'm probably going to do a hybrid of these methods. So again, this one, we downscale. We do some grayscaling. And then this, we compute like a binary region thing to just try to put a mask around just the book. But as you can see, we have the hand, we got some other stuff here, so that's kind of helping, but I don't know if I really like it. And if we keep going, yeah, again, we basically do the same method. This one I did some interesting different experiment where I'm looking at like the vertical edge detection and horizontal. So you can see when you do horizontal, we end up with these lines of text, which is pretty cool. This one's the vertical one. I wonder if there's a way, I don't know, there's some noise down here, but like for continuous lines like this could be a way of detecting, if you just focus on just these lines, detecting these regions. But when we mix them together, we end up with kind of blobs like that, which we do that, and then, well, back to the other problem. But anyway, so between those methods, yeah, I'm trying to see, can I solve this scenario? And maybe with some basic rules, can I just like merge these blocks together and then take the top Y and bottom Y of the two pages and use that to better detect those, yeah, to better detect that text. I guess to give an example of this working properly. Let's see here. Yeah, left and right. That's going to be, I think that's the Harry Potter one. Not Harry Potter, Hobbit. Yeah, so this should be Hobbit. It is, yeah, so this is what happens when it's working well. So we detect all those blocks. We filter out the ones that don't matter. And you can see like we pretty much got the whole page. The issue here is we don't have the title and we don't really have the page number. But we do have the two blocks. And so when we narrow them down, we do end up getting the title and footer in this one, I guess. But a lot of the times we won't. A lot of the times we'll lose those. And then we binarize, rescale. Actually, well, we crop down, so we lose the title that way. And then we chunk the text and binarize each chunk to send off to OCR. So that's the ideal scenario, and that works most of the time. But now I'm trying to handle, can we get page numbers, can we get page titles, and can we solve those issues of like sparse text? It's really like a sparse text problem where we've got a page like this. And right now it doesn't do well in this. Like if you open a page like this, it won't, in the app, it won't scan. So I'm just trying to make it a little more robust. So anyway, I will probably be working on that Wednesday. But today, I want to finish up this, merge this, so I can rebase this and then work on this for Wednesday. That's my hope. And my hope is that this won't take long either. I'm just trying to take the best of these new things to just make detection a little bit smarter and a little more robust. Cool. So, where we were. We got a bunch of this stuff done last Wednesday. Right now we want to, we do the chunking and the streaming of these chunks. But if one of them is poor quality, we want to end early so we can get back to scanning again. Here, let me just check on some things. Cool. Yeah, all the streams are good. So, get status-s. Yeah, I don't have any changes. We pull this over to here. This I'm not really, well, I might need it a little bit today, but yeah, this I can pull over. And right, okay. Let me do a quick little code review. I'm not even gonna look at the files. I'm just gonna look at git ignore. Okay, add-ons, fine, bin, sure. So the HUD, we moved around. There are some changes, small changes I want to make to the HUD. I had ideas about the other day. Improve some commenting, rounding, linting, some script improvements. Fine, this is all easy. Oh, a bit of refactoring of this file. And then test suite improvements. All right. So if we get a chunk and the quality is low, all All right, let's go look at OCR. So when we OCR, where do we do that? Get best page, process page. Return true. What is this? Right, OCR in chunks. So we crop the image into a bunch of pieces, and then we OCR that list. Wait, really? No, this is just a basic cropping. OCR in chunks. Oh, that's a function here. Right. Okay, I thought this was an OCR.cpp, but it's not. You could argue that this should be an OCR.cpp. I guess maybe not, because we send up the signals, right? So basically what we do is we have our image come in. We do a while loop. We crop using vertical range. So this is a function I created where, you know, we start from 0, the top of the image, to the end of the chunk, which, you know, is a setting. We get that image. If we're in debug mode, we'll save it off. And then for that chunk, we call the OCR we do OCRing. We get that result. We emit a signal so that the front end can pick up that chunk. Interesting. Why am I doing this twice? That feels wrong. So extract text grayscale. Is this function here. We set our image and we get the Hawker results. And we return those as a Godot string. So this gets us a Godot string. Yeah. We set that value. Well, we get a lock so that we can set a value and set which chunk we're on. Determine if we're on the final chunk. And then we loop back around. Now, what is get thresh image? What is that? Pix. Pix. So if we're running the test suite and we're in debug mode. Oh. Right. That's what this is. Save off Tesseract's version of binarizing as well, so we can see that. Right, if we're running the test suite only, obviously, yeah, only do this if we're doing the test suite, and if we're in debug mode, sure. Actually, I don't know why why this is nested. But whatever, that's fine. Because I was wondering, like, why we're doing a debug. We're saving a debug image here, but this is just the chunk. And then Tesseract, bless its heart, even if we pass it a binarized image, it's going to do its own binarization anyway. And this I want to save off just to make sure. You know, because it's like literally that image, and that's what this is here. Like, we can binarize all we want in OpenCV. At the end of the day, this is what matters, because this is what Tesseract's going to use when it binarizes itself. So it should match what we've done. Yeah, I think I had binarization on my own before, but I think this is why we just pass in grayscale, because we know Tesseract's going to do its own thing anyway, no matter what we do. Okay, fair enough. That's just a minor distraction. Okay, cool. So we've emitted the chunk. The front end's going to pick that up. And when I say front end, I mean Godot. And that is going to be OCR manager, right? Just trying to get my head back in this. Since it's been a minute since I've looked closely at this part of the code. Right, so on text scanned, we have our Haka results. We know the page number, chunk number, whether or not it's the final chunk. So let's see here. Well, fine. Let's figure out where we would do it. So we figure out the page, old page, updating. Is instance valid? The temp page, okay, fine. So add OCR chunk is probably not the right word for it. I'll probably rename that at some point, but. So this we process. If we didn't, if we got an error, just return. For merging chunks. Right, so we have the current page. We pass the current page in because we try to merge it. If not, just append. Wait, seriously? Just append would be false. That's weird. Oh, because just append would come in as true. But if it's a new chunk, yeah, I should rename this because we're starting a new page. Since we're starting a new page, we pass true just because there's not going to be anything to merge. And this new page here is an empty page. I guess this could be implied, this true, like we're passing in true and the other ones we're passing in false, right? The only one, false, false. You know, we could imply that internally. Because in this case, we're starting a new page, so it's new page. In these other cases, it's the temp page and the old page. So in theory, this is true if the page that we passed in is empty. It's an empty page, which I could always check for right here. So I don't really want to refactor right now, but I could do that. All right, so if it's a new page, then we don't care what's currently there. We're just going to add the lines. If the current page already has stuff in it, then we got to see if we can match lines. And if so, add them. Because it's the second chunk and we want to see where we want to merge that chunk in with the text. So we're trying to find like 2 lines that match. So basically, if we get to here, So I could do a thing here of call down to skip remaining chunks. Now, what if it is the first chunk? So, I mean, that's fine. Like, if we got to the second chunk and it's garbage, meaning we couldn't align, fine, then we can kill it. The problem is we're going to be on chunk 2. At this, we'll have gotten chunk 2. We'll be working on chunk 3 on the back end. How many chunks do we end up with right now? 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 4 chunks. So I don't know how beneficial this is because, you know, when the front end gets this chunk, if we fail to stitch it together, right? So in this case, we're talking about, or let's use the binarized images. You know, we basically have this chunk and this chunk, and you can see there's an overlap. So from up here, yeah. So you can see these last 3 lines, like wickedness they were doing, wickedness they were doing. So there's overlap between the chunks. We detect that overlap and merge them. If that fails, that means we're already done with this chunk, which means we're in the process of OCRing chunk 3. We would call down and tell it to skip. So in theory, maybe, because this does take a couple seconds for each one, we would save 1.5 chunks worth of work. It's worth it. Really, the ideal would be, can we detect bad OCR down here on chunk 0? And I think the easiest way to do that, I think we can. I mean, I'll still call down here. Might as well. It's a good stopgap. Again, we're trying to speed things up because the faster we can fail, the faster we can get a successful scan. And that's one of the issues right now. I guess take a moment here and remind myself. So I've been reading, I've been reading in VR every couple of days now. And each time I do it, I write down what are my, 3 biggest annoyances, or what are the 3 things that pop into my head that would either make the experience more fun or are preventing me from enjoying it. And the last time I did this was the other day, and I wrote down, so the notification HUD should be a little bit further away and semi-transparent. Right, I wanted to add some transparency there. And then the book anchoring to the left hand is annoying. Yeah, I'm not really working on that right now. And then bad OCRing, we don't have a recovery mechanism or a fast rescan if our first chunk is bad. Okay, so really it's that third one I'm working on right now. That's what I'm trying to do. So when we do this, how does this work? So we've got our XML parser. Interesting that this is add OCR chunk. So we're going to read each line one by line. Okay, so we're just going to loop over the XML. And for each line, we're going to go get the line. And we want a score greater than 0. So if we don't have a score greater than 0, we would also be down here. Okay. So maybe what I'll do here, just add a variable called good chunk. make it a Boolean, and we'll set it to false. Here we'll set it to true. And then down here, we'll set it to true. And maybe I'll just do a bad OCR chunk. I may want to log a reason. I will do this refactor right now. So a line, well, it's a page. And a page is made up of lines. Okay, so what I'll do, we'll do like var and new page bool equals current page dot lines dot size equals 0. Let's get rid of the just append. We can get rid of these booleans, these extra arguments, because now this boolean is implied based on what's passed in. So this is updating an already completed page. Sure. Okay, so now, yeah, if the page has no lines, it's a new page. Just append, yeah, just append is the action. If it's a new page, then we're just going to add lines. Now I don't care about this. Good. So that should work just fine. Now the thing I got to improve is the score, but let's assume that that's fine for now. Yeah. Yeah, we just care about good chunk. By default, it's not a good chunk until we say it is. And as soon as we get a decent line, we're going to set it to true. A decent line that actually matches an existing line. Then it's a good chunk. All right, this is cool. All right, so let's switch back to C++. I mean, I can tell you right now, this get score is bad. It's not good scoring. I'm going to fix that. Probably fix that today. It's only okay, right? It's like, did we find at least one high quality word from the Hocker results that the Hocker results scored well on? Not great. I think that's what it does. But okay, so now I could do a check here. And let's just do this as Let me think here. So when do we want to do this? I would probably say, yeah, this is probably the right spot, because if we're still in the middle of processing a chunk, when, like, that's going to finish when it finishes, maybe. We might be able to call down into Tesseract and cancel it, but for now, let's assume we can't. To do, check here for abort signal. Now, I think we already have something like that, right? I think I already built something. So on process, we call process signals, which is where we're going to emit signals up to the front end for text scanned or like a status update on us. So this is either OCR result. Call it text scanned. It's trying to be technology agnostic, but I could just call it OCR result, because this always confuses me, to be honest. Or, like, you know, do we have a new status to send up? So we do that, capture images and save them. Okay, fair enough. And then let me see here. So we have start scanning. When we do that, debug mode should exit false. And then we initialize a bunch of things, including Tesseract's data for OCRing. And when we're done doing all those things, we start our main process loop. What do I have here as public methods? So if I look at the test harness that I wrote for myself, we do have like run next test. We have trigger scan. I mean, I guess we have this on main 2, right? Yeah, we have resume scanning and pause scanning. So let's see how pause scanning works. This is probably what I want. So we have is paused. We set that to true. I have a is scanning active. I'm not using that. All right. Okay, so this is our main loop. We sleep for 100 milliseconds. Oh, when we're paused, anyway. If we're in pause mode, then we're not trying to exit. Then we kind of just wait. Then we just kind of loop forever, waiting until is pause is false. And once it's false, then we try to do image detection again. Okay, so I could do... I think that's here, right? Control state. Okay, so here's what we'll do. Let's do atomic Boolean. We'll do cancel OCR. And by default, we'll say false. And then here, I'll add a new one here. Really? No autocomplete on that? Fine. Call it cancel OCR. Maybe we'll do canceling. Is that even how you spell canceling? That doesn't look right in my brain. Present participle of cancel. All right, fine. That just doesn't look right to me. I don't know, maybe somebody else's eyes sees it better. All right, so we'll save that and we'll do dot store true. Pause scanning is a public method. It's going to be void. Okay, so now we have cancel OCR as a method that you can call. There we go. And now we're going to store true on this variable, which is this control state canceling OCR. It just doesn't, it's not sitting right with my brain. Okay, so maybe I'm not crazy. Many people struggle to remember whether to write canceling or cancelings. What should it be? American versus British. Single L is the American English, really? Versus British English. Well, I guess we'll go with the freedom spelling. All right, moving on. So and I can just do a dot load on that variable to check it. So I could do if we're canceling. Now, actually, the question is paused. How do we reset that back? Gotcha. And it looks like I don't need to get a lock or anything for that. Fine. Canceling OCR. Cool. So that's so if we're canceling, I probably can just, let's log here. Let's do that. Ending OCR early. That's fine. And then just return. There's nothing else to do, right? We're just gonna skip this. Counter is set here. So again, there's nothing, there's no state outside of here that we care about. We're just gonna end OCR early and just return. Right? I don't do any cleanup here, right? So when we OCR in chunks, we just call it. And when we're done calling it, then we return and just loop back around and start trying to OCR again. All right, so that should work. So I should be able to call down to do I have it here? The scanner service. Well, yeah, actually, yeah, should just be game state scanner service. That's right. Let me just think here. I'll add logging if I need it. So, to make sure I didn't mess anything up too badly, let's build all, just on the off chance that there's something wrong with either Android or Windows, as we've painfully learned multiple times. Sometimes if you just work on Windows, which means running locally, it'll build fine, everything will be fine, and then you go build the Android version and some weird nuance of something in C++ doesn't resonate correctly with Android for some reason. Cool, so Android went well, now Windows. Okay, there we go. Finished up. And then let's run all the tests. Now, I've been recording the test results. Yeah, see, this is good. This is why we do this. Even though I'm not done with the pull request, still going and grabbing the test results is beneficial because it'll tell me if anything went awry. Now, I got rid of some of those trashy tests, right? I forget why I ripped them out, but I ripped them out for a reason. Did I leave a comment for myself as to why I did that? It might have been related to only OCRing one page at a time. But as bad as they are, like, they could help me detect problems with issues like this. Whoa, new chapter finished. It got a score? Wait, what? That doesn't happen. Well, great. Now our score is... Oh, actually, all the scores are bad. So what happened? Okay, yeah, we got an error. All right, so let's look at the last one. So working on chunk 0. can't do Control C. Control insert. All right. Let's see here. Working on chunk. Really? That's supposed to... Oh, probably because it doesn't start with space. There we go. How do I... Yeah, by the way, do I even need this anymore? Oh, this is like a scratch pad. Is there anything else I asked it that mattered, or no? Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay. In C++, I am logging float numbers. How do I cast them to 2 decimal places before sending them to my logging logic? Oh, well, I guess I'm not casting them to do that decimal places. Fine, sure. If you're writing directly to a stream or a logging system that accepts streams. No, I'm not doing that. Really? Okay. Is there a Godot specific way to do this? I'm actually converting to a Godot string as part of this as well. And so I'm calling float num. Let's see what it says. A built-in shortcut so you don't have to juggle OString stream at all. Since you're already using, you can hand it the right number of decimal places you want. The signature looks like. Okay, yeah, see, I'm not surprised to find out that there's something like this. It just felt like, yeah, I didn't need to. Okay, so I could do 2 and 2. In fact, if I look at the method signature, double and then decimal places. Yep, so if I had just bothered to look at the docs, I wouldn't have needed to ask ChatGPT. Cool. All right, so back to what I was doing. I just wanted to do that because I'm getting tired of looking at like these ugly logs. So we're working on chunk 0. Processing right page of chunk 0. Updating in motion. Now we start working on the next chunk. But these things are happening in parallel. So while the back end is working on the next chunk, the front end is still processing. Really? Oh, see, this is okay. Non-existent function. Okay. But why is it a bad chunk? But okay, so it says okay, either way, non-existent function. So why is it a non-existent function? I might have to reload the current project. Also, why am I building again? It shouldn't matter, actually, come to think of it. Yeah, this is going to take too long. I should just build the Windows side for the moment now that I've done most of the logic. Come on, finish up. Okay, so project, reload current project. So sometimes it'll tell you that it can't find the function. Other times it won't. So if I do run, yeah, let's do left and right. Skip it. Of course, this is going to write files for me. I do think I have a flag for skipping that, though, right? Hey, look at that. We got better precision. Non-existent function. Weird. So run test, do we have a flag for that? Skip build, simple only. All right, I don't have that. What I do have is skip files. So was it skip files? Skip files. Oh, this might be wrong. I think it's like that. Skip build. Skip files equals false. If we're skipping files, then we do what? Godot args plus equals skip files. do what? Simple only skip files. All right, so if I do okay. Maybe it'll skip. No, it didn't listen to me. Let's see. Yeah, it didn't do it. Oh. If skip files equals true, did that work this time? No. All right, whatever. Let me just work on this. I'll figure that out in a little bit. All right, either way, cancel OCR is not a function, so what's going on there? Cancel OCR. It is a public function. Now, what about pause scanning? Let's just make sure. Okay. So that's why. We need to map it up here for the control, for the bind methods. Now it should call it. Now, it seems like we didn't do a build. Yeah, this hasn't been doing a build. Now, see that? That doesn't... Something's wrong there. Okay, I think I probably broke something. Let's just build Windows only. So for some reason it's skipping the build, even though it shouldn't. I'll fix that in a little bit. Okay, now it's actually calling it ending OCR early. But that's not happening. Are we just stuck there? So it is chunk 3. Why are we ending OCR early? So it's saying this one's a bad chunk, which is interesting. So it is the last chunk. So I probably should... Do we know that it's the final chunk? Add OCR chunk, hold on. So we call that but we don't know inside that function if it's the last one. We know out here. I didn't want to pass another Boolean in. So what happens here? If it is a bad chunk, we do all this work, but if it doesn't score well, we try as hard as we want, as hard as we can, but we don't add anything to the current page. So the current page doesn't get improved at all. We just return it unaltered. So in this case, we still have an empty page. Like, we haven't updated anything. Updating existing page. See, then we call add page, but again, we're just adding the same page again. So it's almost like we should only do that if we finally succeeded. Else if final chunk. So we get the old page. If we're updating an existing page, we just add it. I feel like I'm missing a scenario here. I'll have to go back through this logic. But yeah, we just check to see if the new page is better than the old page. And then we add it. But see, I think we may want to do that anyway if it's final chunk. Because if the final chunk failed, it's possible just the bottom of the page is garbage. So for now, maybe we don't do anything. If it's the final, I mean, at a minimum, if it's the final chunk, we shouldn't cancel OCR. Because we're just done anyway. It doesn't matter. I guess we could call down for it. I mean, if we really wanted to. But see, this would happen. So we finish the final chunk. We send the signal up. We're done with this while loop anyway. But we ended early. Is that true? So then... According to this, okay, so we're working on the last chunk. But see, this is from the previous chunk. So these two things are in parallel. So actually it was this chunk, 0.4 to 0.8. That's bad. So it's the second to last chunk that we had an issue with. But now at this point, we're already done. So actually, this is correct then. In this case, anyway, we should be ending early. But because we don't finish... Wait, what am I doing? So, sorry, let me try to, I want to try to fix this real quick. Do I? Hold on. Yeah, there's no reason why those shouldn't just be the same behavior as skip build. We're just setting a flag true. And then down here, if it's a specific test, filter, otherwise was it skip build? Yes, following the same pattern. If skip build's false, if we're not skipping the build, then do it. In these cases, we're doing if simple only, then we pass that arg. See, this should be the same. If skip files, we pass that arg. All right, fine. Oh, I am passing -s. What am I doing? I'm being stupid. All right, so we'll do the build. Yeah, it's gonna build. And then we'll see. We'll see what happens here. Right now, I basically just turned this off. Did we pass the arcs, by the way? We did not. Okay, so I broke something there. So here's the chunk that should have had a problem. Yeah, so this actually should be for up here. Because this is starting on the new chunk. So this chunk is running right now. It's taking a few seconds. But we got a bad OCR chunk. Score of 25. So I disabled the logic. Yeah, so we got this statement here. Is there a... There's probably a test result here thing for... Oops, wrong spot. There's probably a thing here for... If it's the final chunk, then we log our results, clear everything, and move on to the next test and finish up. So we never get to final chunk because I'm throwing the error. So that's the one problem. The other problem is right now I'm scoring a 25, which is probably because of this check here. So why am I saying it's a bad OCR chunk? Let's see. Let's do... We could say new page, question mark. String on new page. So we can check that. It might have been this me futzing with the past arguments and not passing that boolean in anymore. It's possible I misunderstood how that worked. I could do else logger no good score for line. But see, that's fine. That could be noisy because it's like for every single line. Right, so maybe I need a... This one matters a bit more. Unable to match line. Fine, now let's run it again. Fine, I'll skip it this time. All right, let's see what we get. So we have bad lines all the time. Where are we? So, new page true. And we didn't have a single bad line. Well, we do have images. So I can see what we tried to OCR. So this is chunk 0, can't imagine having any bad lines in this. So now we've got a... So our first chunk, actually, we do great. So it is a new page, and we're fine. We do our second chunk, chunk 1. It's not a new page anymore, but we're unable to match lines. Unable to match lines. I think I know what the problem is. I think I know what I screwed up. I know what the issue is. So here's what the logic was doing before. That's why it was called just append. For a new page, it would be true. But for an old page, it would be false. And so we would come in, and if we actually succeeded at matching, we would say, hey, yeah, just go ahead and append to your heart's content. So let's think about this here. Let's just do, I mean, again, I'll probably collapse these into a single Boolean, but let's just do it for now. I don't know. Append without checking. Boolean equals new page. So we're going to initialize this as to whether or not we should just append without checking. So if it's a new page, so we should just do it. And we set our good chunk to true, but that's really more of a, did we get a score? It's a good chunk. Like we actually got this far for something, right? If we match line index, sorry, then now it is true. So once we get here once we find a matching line, like of course we're going to have a bunch of lines that don't match, right? But once we do have something, I mean, like we should get some lines that don't match, but once we find a line that does, then we append without checking, which means then we're in this mode. I'm going to guess that that fixes it. Yeah, I don't like my logic here. I need to refactor it and make it more human readable and less prone to silly bugs like this. Still scoring a 25. Is that normal for left and right? No, right? Yeah, it should be scoring a 98. Yeah, it looks like we're getting the first couple of chunks. Like we've got the first chunk here only. That's the issue. So chunk 0 passes the test. Chunk 1 We're just unable to match lines. Is there anything else I did? Well, okay. For starters, let's just disable that. For all of our tests, we're not updating an existing page. False. What mode is that? So if we're starting a new page, we pass true. Oh, for the other two, we pass false. Right, so this is false and this is false. Right. So, okay, this should only be true if it's a new page. And we want to append without checking if it's a new page. I don't think I broke anything else. This logic doesn't run now. I've disabled it. And that's it, right? So that logic shouldn't matter. The script here doesn't really matter. The only thing I could have done that broke would have been in this file. It's just OCR manager. So let's look at just append. We only set it there. All right, fine. You know what? Eliminate the impossible, and then we'll come back. So we got what? Just append here, just append, and just append. This is true, and these are false. And then we'll do a git diff on OCR manager. Cool. So all I did was add some new variables here that I'm not using with a couple of else statements to log some things, and that is it. Nothing else has changed. Now let's run it and see if we get a good score. We should. There, 98. 0.4, yeah. In 8 seconds. Well, this one's 12 seconds, but that's fine. So, yeah, there's a whole big blob of text. Okay, now we can figure out what's going on. And when it's chunk 0, let's see here. Did I not log? Oh, I mean, because I guess I don't care anymore. Maybe I care. So chunk 0, everything goes fine. Then our next time through. Here, let me do that. Logger. New page. Plus string on page. Just append. string on just append. Cool. So we'll log that. Hopefully these should be in sync, right? If they're in sync, then there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to undo that change, but clearly they must not be. So unable to match line. So processing chunk 1. So when we're processing the second chunk, we do hit, you know, we're unable to match the first couple lines. And we get a bad score for something. So there is some junk there. But I think ultimately we're okay, right? I guess like these could happen early only, because once we succeed at matching a line, we then never can get here again. So we get to just append. And then this can happen quite often. If like we're at the very end, the last line especially, like the very last line of a chunk, we very much could get here. So I mean, I guess I could do, I don't know, LF not good chunk. So we'd skip that. Again, these would only happen at the very beginning. So in theory, we had 2 lines that didn't match well. And then after that, we must have been good. We must have matched some things up. And then we had one at the end that didn't do well. And again, we just end up with these like one-off. All right, so that doesn't really tell me anything. Let's run it again. So, let's think here. New page, and we're in append mode. Not a new page, and we're not in append mode. Not a new page, and we're not in append mode. No and no, and then we're done. So how the hell did that fix things? If I do that, and I say, fine, let me just make it a new one, because I kind of want to keep that variable name. Does it break now? Come on, don't make me crazy here. Yeah, see, it works. 98.4. So again, I don't need those. I'm still not seeing where I introduced the bug. So it is truly just Well, again, new page. Yeah, I mean, I should be able to do that. And again, we should be back to working. So let's just gently refactor this as we go. Yeah, still good. Fine. I'll just leave it as just append. And so this is needed. I guess here's the thing, like, if it's an empty page, like I can't just merge these two together. Because if it's an empty page, we would say, like, yep, it's a good chunk. But that's not true. It only becomes a good chunk if we actually get some score. So, let's, well. Yeah, so I deleted those things, fine. Let's do it. It's not a good chunk. We have a bad OCR chunk and we're going to tell it to cancel. I should still get a 98. By the way, we're telling it it's a good chunk. If we either match or we at least got to get a decent score somewhere on the first chunk. Yeah, so the first chunk that comes in, we got to get a decent score. And if we do, then we flip it true. If it's not a new page and we're trying to append it to the second chunk or later, but we succeed at matching it up, again, we get good score and we actually succeed at matching it up, then we flip it true. Otherwise, if we go through every single line and we're not able to flip this true at some point, then it's a bad scan. It finished. Success. So we end up not canceling it. I don't know what I did. Somewhere along the line, I must have had a typo somewhere. I mean, I do know I wasn't doing this. So it might have just been this line being deleted was what did it to me. All right, so that's fine. Let's run the whole test suite. And see where we end up. See if there's another test that has a failure. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them gets stuck somewhere. So angled is 94.8. Yeah. Shaky is 93. Yep, so far so good. New chapter. What are you going to do? Somehow new chapter's getting a score now. I don't know how that happened. 7205. Hey, our score went up slightly. And we're slightly faster, apparently. It's our slowest time. 8.6. 8.6 for left and right. All right, so we're good. Cool. So we should have the ability to cancel out early. None of our tests in our test suite should do that. I'm a little surprised that new chapter even finished. I'm surprised we didn't get stuck and hung. So according to this, bad OCR chunk. Oh, because I never actually cancel it. Okay. So, sorry. If we actually cancel it now. I assume it's going to get stuck on. I don't want to pass another flag. What can we do here? So we want to cancel, but like, does one more signal have to come in? Is that the deal? New chapter is going to hang here. This is where it's going to get stuck. See? So, yeah, ending OCR early, which we do. So we cancel it, and then the issue is kind of the test harness. Because the test harness is expecting a final chunk. You know, I could get a return here on text scanned. So OCR manager on text scanned returns void, right? Okay. Well, it does return that. So this function, though, if we call it, I don't want to skip this for the test harness. I want the behavior to go through, because the more code that you write where it's specific to it, like one hack solution would be check here if we're not in test mode and only do this in like the app running. The problem is the more little things like that you do, now all of a sudden when you run your test harness, your test suite, you're not testing reality, you're testing an illusion, and it can make it a lot harder to find bugs. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to intercept the call and skip it. In fact, this can speed up my test harness, so I'd rather actually have it do its thing. Maybe. See, this is on scanned. It would be nice if this returned. Okay, well, maybe I should do that, right? So okay, fine. I think I know what to do. And maybe it's a good thing, you know? So let me do this. In GDScript for Godot 4.5, how can I have a function return two values? So can we return a tuple? It should support it. A function can return any value, and that includes multiple values. So we can return an array. But then results got an array. I don't love that. Return a dictionary, don't like that. Custom class, gross. A vector 2. Oh, okay. So this is fine. This is what I want. So we could do an array of OCR page and Boolean. Typed arrays require exactly one collection element type. Yeah, so that's the stupid part. I could do that. I guess it kind of hurts typing, maybe. But see, this is if we error. You know what? I think I just want to return current page and false. Let's go down this road. Yeah, so we're going to return if it's a good chunk or not. And we could do var success equals false. And we could do success. Can we not do that? Can we do that? Nope, not doing what I wanted to do. Shoot. I don't like this. I do not like it. Maybe I have to rethink this. See, this is the chunk. What are we doing at current page? So we pass in a page. You know, we do use it to get a Boolean. We add line to it using the offset. Well, we're calling the function for that line. So we're looping over. Basically what this function is doing is we're, at the end of the day, all things considered, we're processing the XML. We're looping over it for each line. We're adding that line to the page. That's really what this is doing. But if it fails to do that job, we don't really... I don't want to throw an exception. I could. So what if we like just raise an exception? The problem then would, the way we would handle it, not the problem, let's just say let's assume we went with that approach. So then down here, I mean, why not? I mean, I guess, right? Raise how does GD script handle try except and raising exceptions? Simple function example will suffice. Pretty lean. Instead of Python style exceptions, it uses assert, push, but it does have a limited form of try with a wait for signals coroutines. Does not support try except. Huh, thought it did. So you can't write try exception. Assert, but is that the same as a Python assert? Because in Python, you really shouldn't use assert in regular code. Return error codes. Check the result. You push the error. And then you could basically build your own little API for it. That's really annoying. So we can't even raise an exception. Well, we actually did have a check here already. We return. So what if we just change this to a Boolean? So now we can return false. So we do short circuit in this case, I guess, if we don't get the new lines. Right, so if we're starting a new page, we get it. If we didn't get new lines, we return. Fair enough. Now, if we're not in that starting new page, interesting, like new page is only used. Okay, I guess new page is used down there. Fine, sure. So if we're updating an existing page, okay, what if we just do existing line count is an int. We'll set to 0. This feels kind of hard to follow. I guess in this case, we're still using new page here, right? So we could do dot lines dot count if else 0. Return true. It's lines.size, right? So, because if we're dealing with a new page, like that's going to be 0. So we can just say if new page lines size is the same as the old, which in this case would be 0, then return. Return false. Fine. This is gross. I don't like this. I really don't like this. So we're basically saying if it didn't change, this code is getting too complicated and it feels hacky. But let's go with it for the moment. Maybe I'll refactor it. So we do var success, which equals a boolean. Or not success. So I guess that means like if we fail, if this process fails, then like pack it in, we're done. Move on to the next test. Let's find out. So in theory, this will work. One did fine, no problems, 94.8 for angled, right? 94.8 for angled, yep. Here we go. And for whatever reason, new chapter's back down to 0. But we actually finished this time. 71.6 in 6.5 seconds. So other than shaky leg taking 93.17, 4.2. Okay. So this one took slightly longer. That's fine. Okay, we're back to good. So this is working. I just don't love all the extra code I had to write. I guess we could do... Now, see, this is different because we're either passing in temp or we're... Because we have all these conditional situations. So if I if I ran McCabe complexity on this function, it would scream at me for all the nested logic I've got going on here. I might try to refactor this, but not while streaming. I think I may do that after. All the extra return statements, it's gross. I mean, I guess we could do something like so I guess this is 0. And if it's 0, like we are doing this to pop out early, is what we're doing. I guess this could be solved with an elif. So if we do an elif here, only if this fails do we go on to this step. So if this is true, we don't do this, we don't do this, and we pop down to here. Okay, let me do this. Var success boolean equals false. Or do we assume true, right? Because we are fine. Let's assume true. And here we can do success equals fine. Let's just do greater than 0. Let's just keep it simple. 7 elif. Fine. Like if success and so I can get rid of this. We could do only continue if we found new lines. And I can reuse that pattern everywhere. So this previously checked for 0. There. That's now like a one-liner. Only continue on if we actually succeeded here. And then with this, we can do the same thing. Can I get rid of this? Let me get rid of this. This is stupid. It's an extra complicated ternary operator for no reason. If I need it, I can just do look, let's just do var line count. Int equals, so now we know we have to be at this state. Already good. Dot lines dot size. Nope. Size. There you go. We're not going to do this ugliness here. And here we'll do so if we may have left this unaltered. I mean, I could do a straight up comparison, but so we're going to determine if it's a success or not if we've got more lines now. And again, we'll do the same down here. Only this time now, since it is a new page, we can reuse the exact same logic. And I can do a simple check here. If not success, failed to get anything from the new chunk. Return early. Return success. Now success is false. Maybe I'll change this to have something worth updating. And let's get rid of that. I don't like the nestedness, but it's fine. Now we can do a tab in. Gotcha. So if up here we don't get a good success, if we fail to succeed on one of these, if success is still false, no, we don't default with true. But if we fail to do any of that, it'll be false. And then we'll just skip down to here and do a simple return. So now we only have one return, nothing too complicated, and a success flag that we can use that's, you know, logical. So if I run the whole test suite now, we should get the same result as before with slightly better code. And I am happy so far, so this looks good. Let it finish, but it's going to succeed, I think. Yeah, actually, there we go. Full good, fully good. Great. So I'm going to push that up. Let's do a diff. Might as well. Oops. /build -all. Fine, do that build. So abort if quality is low. While that's happening, let's go take a look at how we determine quality. Now we do use this in two places. We've got score here we go. Currently not cached, as we do sometimes change the lines, so assume we always need to recompute this. So for each line, we just add the line score. And the line score is, for all the words, if the Hawker results are better than 80, then we say it's a strong word, and we return the strong word size. Maybe this is okay. I mean, that's just like Tesseract saying that it's feeling confident that it OCR'd it correctly. Maybe I'll leave that then. Let me stew on this for a moment. So when we add a chunk, we get the line, and we check its score. Line.getScore greater than 0. Right, so we're just counting the number of words that are decent. So we're looking for at least one word per line. I will take a look at this real quick, but. All right, so here's our diff. Those files changed. We got rid of that just append. We added a couple of booleans. We are calling down to cancel OCR if we're in a bad spot. I really need like to add some linting to auto clean up, like end of line, empty line, like this kind of garbage. I'm not going to chase that down right now. On text scan now has a success variable, and yeah, nothing too crazy. And then the test suite. I don't know. I probably added a bug there. Let me not add that file. But the backend's got some good improvements. Cool. Let's do that. I'm not going to stage the run test file. Git commit -m. Cancel OCR when we hit a bad chunk. So this alone should speed up. I don't even know by how much. It should speed up how quickly we get back to OCRing and finding good text. Because when in my local testing, I have found on occasion, not on occasion, fairly more often than that, we'll get a bad scan. And the second the first chunk comes in, I already know it's a bad scan. But then I'm sitting there waiting for the whole page to finish OCRing before we even have the possibility of rescanning the page. So being able to end that early is good. I guess the question is, knobs I can turn. So I can turn this up and say, look, we need more than one word. We should be getting all right, so if I turn that up to 1, there's 2 knobs I can turn here. Might as well. I already did a build. Actually, the build succeeded, right? Yes. Let me run the test suite again with that one tiny little change. Something might break here. I suspect this might have been one of those things that broke for my older tests, the ones that were garbage that I recently removed. So making this change might be safe now. But I also then have the ability to tune this. So I could say, look, I need multiple words that are good on the line. But see, the problem with this is, what happens if the line is short, right? If the line is a single word, therein lies the problem. And this is why I can't do this. I mean, the test suite ran fine, but the problem will be we'll have a situation where, like here, we got 3 words right here. But it's possible that could be a single word, right? Return to the next line. So I actually cannot do this. As much as I want to. That should be truthy, right? Truthy meaning in code that like an empty array. So if you have a list and the list is empty, That's false in many languages. In most languages, it's false because it's an empty array. The array exists, which is true, but it's empty, therefore it's false. So truthy falsy is like, does something resolve to being true or false when you do a Boolean check on it? So in this case, like the score returns a count, its size, but the size could be 0. Now in some languages, well, it gave you a number, right? 0 is a number, therefore like this would be true. But not all languages. So a lot of languages, 0 is falsy. Okay, that seemed fine. I think it is falsy. Let me triple check that. Is 0 and an empty array both falsy in GDScript? 0 is falsy, an empty array is truthy. Okay, so this is why I'm glad I asked. Plays by its own quirky rules here. Think of values standing in a doorway. Some step aside and say, I count as false. Yeah, of course. Falsy in GDScript. So false is falsy, null, 0, and like the floating point. That's the whole club. Huh. Truthy in GDScript. That's considered true. Empty dictionaries are true. An empty string is true. No way. Okay. I mean, objects I would expect. Damn. Okay. Well, good thing I checked. So since I called .size on it, I'm okay to check it. All right, so the problem then is the score, our word scores. Am I using strong words anywhere? I am. Oh, for merging pages. This logic I'm not actually using. Strong words. So get score. I could do something here like, look, get self.words.size. Divide each score by the size and return like the average score for the line. So that would average, instead of just create, right now this is just a threshold. Let me do that. Let's do make it a private OCR average confidence equals float. Cool. We'll do var, well, so if we don't have the strong words figured out, I don't know, we can initialize that to 0.0, right? Oh, see, this is, we just learned about truthy falsy, right? This is true. This will always be true. It's an empty array. So that means this logic will always, it'll always recompute this every single time. Darn. Okay, that's not good. So if self dot, if we don't have confidence, average confidence, and we're going to return that. So we'll still do this logic because I might use the strong words later, but we will do var word count integer equals self.words.size. And then we will do self dot the average score plus equals, see, actually, we're going to pull this in here. I'm going to get rid of that. We don't need that. So we're going to do word.score divided by word count. So if there's just one word, then we'll take the score divided by 1. If there's 2 words, we'll add it in half. Well, we'll divide it in half, divided by 2. But then we'll add them up, right? And then, yeah. And then for the heck, so that should be the line score. So line score now means a new thing. So now we're averaging it, which means we can do it better precision. Now we'll actually get a proper score, and it won't be 0. It's going to be most likely something above 0. And it should be normalized to 100. I guess the score would be 100. So 100 divided by 2, let's say again 2 words. Let's say they're both scoring 100. Or let's say they're both scoring 90, right? So 90 divided by 2 is 45, 45 plus 45, 90, right? So we would still be on a scale of 0 to 100. Returns 0.0 to 100.0. So now get score here. It returns a float. It's an integer. Score is an integer, but it's returned as a float. I'm surprised I didn't get yelled at for this. So let's do this here as well. Let's do the same thing. So we're literally going to do but in this case we return it every time, right? So like get score, we want to recompute. So let's do float. And we'll do var line count. We'll just match our same lines.size. Cool. And then we'll do score plus equals. So we'll get each score. So again, now this score is on a scale of 0 to 100. But we'll divide it by line count. So now we're gonna, basically diminish every line. We'll basically get the average of them, is what that's gonna do. wonder. I mean, I guess down here it made sense because I was building the strong word list. But up here, does GD script have list comprehension? And they feel a lot like Pythons. Okay. So another way to write this would be to return L dot get score for L in self dot lines. And then we could call like makes sense. Makes sense. And then averaging a list of floats. With the same gentle motion of... What the hell? You can average a list of floats in GDScript with the same gentle motion as skimming pebbles across a pond. Okay. Fine. Check if empty. Reduce. Dot size. Ugh. Gross. Or if you want something short enough to whisper. What the hell are you? Off the rails. Absolutely. Call HR because my coworker is being inappropriate. Old school loop. Okay, so this is literally what I was doing. And yes, you can mash a comprehension with it. If you tell me the shape of the data you're averaging, the snuggest version for that case. So again, we got values, values.size. This is also how I know it's off the rails. I guess, well, floats is the name. It changed the name of things instead of calling it values. Yeah. So the answer is no. There's not a simple way to do this. I mean, I guess you could do values.reduce A plus B. Yeah, gross. I don't want to do reduce. Okay. So, not doing it. I mean, yes, we can do a list comprehension. No. Nope. There is not a cute way to do it, other than just looping. I mean, you could take the whole score, add them up, and then at the very end divide it by line count. That's another way you could do it. That's probably what it's advocating for, right? At the end of the day. It's saying add them all up. Yeah, the old school way, add them all up, divide by the size. I'll go that route. And then we can get rid of this variable. So now we're just adding them all up and dividing it by the size. So get score now has new meaning. This one that's fine. This is the score getting it from the actual Hawker results. This is getting it for the word. Again, pulling it from the Haga results. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could argue this could be inline. It doesn't need to be a function, but that's fine. So if line.score is greater than 80, so now we're saying the average score needs to be greater than 80. So this should have the same result as before. Refactor. Get score isn't a score. And then we're checking to see. Now here's where we're doing the page score comparison. Again, that should be fine because now we're just getting the average score of those pages, which this should be a bit more accurate now than it was before. Because before we were just counting the number of confident words. Now we're actually factoring in even the low quality words. So yeah, I guess some really bad results could bring the average score down, and that could affect things. By the way, let's do logger. Line score is plus string on line dot get score. I'll clean that up later, but this I'm not going to see in the test suite. I should, for me later when I'm debugging on the headset, I should add this in here. Excuse me. New page better. And we've got plus versus plus str. There we go. So our temp page now, I guess the one advantage that the old approach had is if we were counting the number of good words, then if the new page, if we fail to OCR everything, and we only got like one or two chunks, it would have had a lower score than the current page. But now, since we're averaging them, you could have, if we've cut off the page, we could still say it's better even though it's not. I think that won't happen because success will be false and we'll never end up down there. Now, if that happens, I guess like the worst case scenario would be we abort chunk 2 of OCR, but it doesn't happen quick enough and we end up finishing and sending another signal for chunk 3. So chunk 3 would come in here, but chunk 2 already failed, so chunk 3 is guaranteed to fail, pretty much. Like, I can't see it working. Not unless the book is The Shining and the page is just, you know, no beer and no TV make Homer or something. If that's the case, sure, then chunk 3 could come in and we could stitch it on successfully, even though somehow chunk 2 failed. But 99% of the time, yeah, we would never get to here. Not unless we were actually succeeding at stitching everything together and we made it all the way to the final chunk. Okay, so I'm not actually worried about that. I will refactor this to, yeah, the line-by-line comparison. But now that we've got line-by-line scoring, we should be good there. The biggest challenge here is, look, we have to do the alignment again. We have to, like, know that the lines are the same line, basically. So Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. And then merge pages, which isn't actually used. But I was experimenting with this. And then we're back to the beginning. Does game state or anything? None of this does that, right? Get score. Nobody uses get score except for OCR manager. So we do use it here, and I'm going to log it. We use it here, but I don't have that running in the test suite. But I am going to log it anyway. And then we use it down here, but merge pages is never used. But hey, maybe it means I can actually come back to this merge pages logic and try to get it working again. All right. So if I run the test harness now, we should still be okay. 12:30, yeesh. Okay, been streaming for a while. I'll probably stop very soon. Actually, rather enlightening. Oh no. Bad scoring. All right, well maybe our right, because we can't go off of 80 anymore because the average scores are going to weigh things down. So that means my average score has to be higher. And this just got stuck. Ending OCR early, and we didn't. Really? We're ending OCR early. Why would that be? So we didn't do the left page, we did the right page instead. Rectangularity actually was good, by the way. Its size was too small, but again, that's because it's a new chapter and we had that paragraph problem, so I need to solve for that. But we do the right page. I'm working on the first chunk. And we're calling ending early. Is that because of up here? That could be because of the previous. Again, I'm in a situation where we might need this to be aware if it's the final chunk or not. That's probably a bug. If we call that for the final chunk, which there might even be a higher likelihood of that happening. Fine. Final chunk Boolean. And we'll say and not final chunk. So if we're not on the final chunk and it's not good, then do it. If we get a bad chunk but it's the last one, just let it go. And we have final chunk here. Kind of annoying. Didn't want to have to do that, but I think it's necessary, at least for now. But we'll still return failure. So that might be what this issue is here. Actually, let's just confirm that worked. So that would be an example of bleeding over, where I probably also then need to do as a safeguard OCR in chunks. If we finish this while loop, another safeguard for this would be that. So basically, when we finish OCRing everything, we're done with all the chunks. We should be storing false anyway because we are done. We need to reset the machine back to factory settings in preparation for our next round of scanning. Okay, so that worked. We did finish, which, by the way, if I disable this, we rebuild. We won't skip building since I've made a backend change. So we'll rebuild and run the whole test suite again, and everything should work. If I'm right about the cause of that issue, it should also succeed. Because the backend then said, no, we're done. So we need to reset back. This is what I love about a test suite. Because I can just run things and see if they work. Scores are terrible, but we'll get there in a second. I know why that is. No, it didn't fix it. It did not fix it. Interesting. Oh, because the final that's why. Okay. Yes, this is good to do, but the final chunk is after this, right? So we send up this signal. Front-end Godot picks up that signal, determines that it's a bad OCR job. But at that point, we're already done here. We've already moved on. I mean, I should still do this anyway, right? But it's too late, right? Like, it's going to call down and tell us to cancel. I might be able to do a safeguard there for that. I would very much like to catch this, right? And not have a problem here. So we do have this main process loop, so we would have finished. So I guess the solution also would be if we call process available images, which means we're done with this loop, we're going back in. I could set it here again, but again, the problem would be the problem's going to be with this calling in. Like, you can't cancel. I guess, okay, so that's the problem. Like, I mean, I don't know, for all we know. I mean, I need this safeguard here anyway. But who knows when we call this, right? We can call this at any time. And what happened here? So when we ran Yeah, we just kind of finished. Like, I can't really put in a check here because, again, if we decide that we're ready to go, process available images, like, okay, at the top of this function, I'd be tempted to set it to, like, let's clear it out again. But again, like, half second later, it could get called from the front end. So I don't know if there is a way to fix that. I think it's just that. I think we can just say, like, look, don't do it for the final chunk. And ideally the backend code wouldn't trust them, but I don't think there's a scenario where I can add a guard for this on the backend. Is that true? Given the delay that can happen with scanning, it's a race condition. You know, actually, I am incorrect. There is one place I can do it. Right here. So if we're coming in here for the first time, like, we have a whole new, the reason why we're in here is because we have a whole new image to OCR. So there's no way that this should be false. Just shouldn't be. Now, sure, there is a small window, like, not exactly small. There's a decently sized window where, yeah, it could be triggered accidentally from the front end. So I still need that guard on the front end. But when we're starting this up again, like, there's no reason why. I mean, I could get even more creative and say, look, if chunk start is 0, right? If we're the 0th chunk, like, store false, because we literally just started. You know what? That's super safe, and it'll potentially prevent issues. So I should do that. So if chunk start equals 0.0 f, then I can do store false. So if we literally, at this moment, we literally got back the first chunk of the new image. There's no reason why it should be canceled at this point. So let's store false. That means we'll skip over this, and we'll trigger a signal for at least the first chunk. And then after that, yeah, who knows? Like, obviously then from there, like, I've narrowed the window as tightly as possible for where somebody could cancel OCRing by accident. So again, if I take this out, and I run that again, now I would expect it to pass. There's still a chance it won't, but at least that window is super small for accidents happening. Which, Lord knows, if I didn't do this diligence here, I would end up with weird behavior, and I wouldn't be able to. I'd have trouble chasing it down. Like, oh, why is it canceling? Why is it hanging on a certain page for the OCR? Oh, it got like halfway through a page and then got stuck or did something stupid. See, Yeah, now it's going to finish just fine. So that fixed the problem. Yeah. Now our scores are terrible. But again, also we shouldn't be doing it if it's the final chunk. So that should really narrow the window of problem there. Okay, so now let's go look at the scoring issue. Scoring issue is, yeah, so for this first chunk, 50s, 70s. I mean, who's our best test case? Our best test case is left and right. So let's go look at that one. Here we go, left and right. Scores of 57. So we've let most of it through. But let me go get the page score, actually. Let me close you. Where will we log in that? Here we go, line score. So, yeah, fine. Let me take this, and we'll come down here. On text scanned. Whether it succeeds or not, let me just log. Because this is just about whether or not we update things. Page score is page. Is that true? New page. Fine. I'll bring this in here. Page score is new page. And then here, sorry, I gotta clean something out here. Also, I need to switch to water. I'm done drinking coffee, but I need to get some water in me. Okay. Right, so we'll just, if we're adding a new page, fine. We're calling gamestate.page. And we'll do best page here. Now I can skip building on the back end because we haven't made any changes there. And now let's see what we end up with. I guess I could have just ran the test that I know is the one I care about most. Okay. So left and right. Here we go. So on chunk 0, 80s, 90s, it's actually pretty good, right? But a couple of 70s. So we would end up rejecting these lines and we would lose them. So I at least need to go to 70. We got some 70s here. So maybe I should go to 60. Again, another bad line there. But actually, these chunks should be cut off. So I should expect these last ones, and maybe even the first ones, to be kind of trash. Although maybe we're doing the alignment, if I remember correctly. 65 here. So I'm going to say 60. Okay, so if I drop it down to 60, the average score. Let's just do -k left. I'll just run that one test. Hello, finally someone who doesn't vibe code. Is that what everyone's doing these days, is vibe coding? I have been doing vibe coding, Toby. But I also am strong enough in coding that I kind of, I don't know, I guess it's more fun to code. But I have been doing vibe coding more. I'd also say because I'm working in Godot, I don't trust vibe coding as much. If it's in Python, like the paths are well treaded there, that the AIs are pretty good. Godot, you know, it'll tell me it can't do something when I know for a fact that the latest version of Godot supports it. Right, it'll struggle. Okay, 96.18. Left and right, so that's better. Okay, what if I drop this down to like 40? So I guess 40 is like, it's pretty confident that that's the right line, right? I do use AI mostly just like ChatGPT, Claude, asking it a question about, you know, usually Godot library stuff. 98.4. Okay, so that worked, 98.4. Let me take the reins off and run the whole test suite. You're an assembly lover, so AI is useless to you. Yeah. So I've been using AI more, but I think it's the way I want to use AI is to let me focus in on the hard, interesting problems. I have done some vibe coding, and then I just feel like a PM. Like I'm just dictating requirements and having the AI code, and then, you know, fixing the stuff that's jank. But that doesn't feel fun to me. Like I can watch AI code on my own. Yeah, I mean, I think if you're gonna watch somebody for vibe coding, ooh, this one, that one failed. Page score of 41. All right, maybe that was too aggressive. But also, why did it hang? It shouldn't have hung. Let's go 50. I think if you're gonna watch somebody vibe code, I mean, you're basically watching somebody PM. Like, has anyone project manager requirements gathering like live stream that? I mean, I could see it being entertaining, right? But you're really saying, I want to watch somebody problem solve and like architect something and say, here's my design, here's how it should look, here's what it should do and not do. Do this, do that, don't do this other thing. And then let the AI code it, but then review it, right? And I don't know. Yeah, that kind of feels... Would that be enjoyable? I mean, I guess if you're skipping all the tedium of coding, I guess for a lot of people watching coding on Twitch or elsewhere, it would be interesting to skip the boilerplate code and get right to outcomes. And so if vibe coding means somebody can move faster and they get right to the interesting parts of coding, maybe that's more entertaining to watch. I don't know. I haven't been watching people code like that lately. All right, my scores are worse. We're at 69.7. I mean, we dropped a little bit. It looks like left and right. This was a 98. And now it's down. 92. Actually, yeah, all of our scores are down. Oops. Let's go 45% on the scoring and see if maybe that gets us back to where we were. Maybe I just need to dial this knob in correctly to where it needs to be. But actually, if that's true, if this works, I'd much rather have a knob like this that I can tweak to say that the line score needs to be above a threshold. What I'm working on, absolutely. Let's Soding style streams. Yeah, I haven't watched his stream too much. Yeah, so what I'm working on is Reading Room VR. It's a VR app that adds to the experience of reading books. And what it does is you can take a physical book off your bookshelf, open it in front of you, and it will match the soundscape and ambiance and environment to the emotion of what you're reading. So I'm using OCR to pull the text off of the page for the book that's open in front of you, and then doing like emotion analysis and other things to figure out, you know, like, I mean, eventually it doesn't do it right now, but things like, oh, is it raining? Okay, well then bring in a little bit of that audio rain, bring in a little bit of that visual rain, just enough to help you stay lost in the story. If the app is doing its job correctly, in my mind, it should you should forget that it's there, and you should just get further lost in what you're doing. So in the video I have here on the screen, like I'm showing like day-night cycle. So we've detected that it's nighttime in the story, so bringing the moon up. But I do have the audio working as well. This little demo here doesn't have it. But, you know, I have it so we're basically figuring out for a given page of text, what is the core emotion for like these 8 core types of emotions. And then doing that to say, okay, well, if it's fear, okay, well then let's have the music be a little more, the background music be a little bit more tense. So that's what I'm working on. And then eventually, you know, do things like, you know, dictionary word lookup, changing the font, resizing the text, anything that's going to help you read better. I think even if reading in VR isn't amazing, I think there's a lot of people out there who have focus issues, attention issues, vision issues, that this could be like a really killer feature for being able to like read a story and keep your head in it, distraction free. I wonder how would Remark feel with that. I don't know what that means. I don't know what Remark is. All right, the scores didn't get any better. So I wonder if there's that thresholding. So 80. So that's, I guess, the change that I made here. Oh, he wrote All Quiet on the Western Front. Oh, okay. I haven't read that, so I don't know. I mean, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. All right, so previously I had a threshold where for the line, all the words in the line, if we got at least one good word, add the line. Now I've got it where the line as a whole needs to score pretty well. What if we drop this down to like 35? Something got stuck though. I don't know what that was. Let me run it again. Maybe I just needed to be a little more friendly. But see, average score of 35 is not great. I mean, I guess if we did a terrible job of OCRing, we would have a lot of single-digit numbers. So maybe this is okay. See, that's bad, but that is our test that's failing right now. This is a test that we know is bad. Which one is this? This is the new chapter test. Okay, so maybe this is a good thing. Not enough lines, skipping metrics, so bad OCR chunk. We killed it, but it didn't cancel the test. Why not? It was supposed to. Okay, so maybe I do want to be, 35-40. Mandatory lit in Europe. Yes, the Western Front of World War I. Yeah, I generally knew the concept, but it was made as a movie about 4 times now. Maybe I have seen that movie. Or at least one of the versions of the movie. So anyway, you're saying you wonder how he would feel about this app. Is there a specific in a specific context for that? So what's happening here? Oh, how would it feel to read that book? Ah, okay. Yeah, my hope is, in a couple of months anyway, to have like at least a version of this out there. I'm at the point where it works. Like, the app works. Now what I'm struggling with is it enjoyable to use? So I've been sitting down almost daily and trying to read a book in VR with this tool. And then I'm just writing down, like, what are the top 3 things that piss me off the most about it, right? What's not working, or what could be more fun, what could be more enjoyable. And so then I'm trying to go fix those things. So I'm trying to get to a place where it actually not just functionally works, but actually feels like an enjoyable experience. So hopefully there's a version of this out there in a few months, and then somebody could tell me how All Quiet on the Western Front is to read. What happens when you try reading a textbook? Right now, I'm focusing on novels only, basically. I'm trying to narrow the focus in order to get the quality working. My plan, though, is that eventually this should work for anything. You should be able to do your homework. You should be able to have a computer monitor and look at that screen, right? Like, in theory, if this is a powerful utility, especially for anybody who has cognitive or focus issues, then in theory, this would be a great thing to have at all times, right? Anything that you'd read, you would want to block out distraction, block out anything that's not the thing you're reading, and then just have pleasant music, if nothing else, behind you, so that you can just focus on what you're doing. Right now, English only. But yeah, I mean, once I have like the first successful version of this thing out there and there's some success there, then yes, I would definitely look into multiple languages, which I think might not be too hard, because, well, I guess Tesseract, I'm loading English-only language dictionary for it. I guess there are some settings I've tweaked to optimize it for English. So, I mean, I would probably start with Mandarin and Spanish, since those are like the heavy hitters. But also, probably come down to like who's using it, right? If people are clamoring for a certain language, I would probably focus on that one first. Right now, just trying to get this thing good enough that the English version for a novel feels really good. Okay, so if we don't have scores above 35, we're not going to end up saying it's a good chunk. We tell it to cancel. Test suite, what are you doing? You are saying... where am I? I'm lost. Where is this? Oh, here we go. Not success. So are we not returning success here? We should have failed then. Bad OCR chunk. Oh, we're returning current page. Okay, so we're killing it. But we return current page, which is fine. What else did we log, though, then? We did... Yeah, we got down to here. We said that it was a success. Page score is something. So what does that mean? That means... How is this possible? If we added a line, we said it was a good chunk. If we matched a line, we said it was a good chunk. So if we're saying it's not a good chunk, then that means current page should be unaltered. How about Klingon? Well, if this is successful, wildly successful enough that I could work on it for a while, I would love to get to a place where you could even do things like live translation, right? So you could open a book in a language that you don't know and have it translate it, or do things like, hey, like this is a heavy book. It's more complicated text. It's written at a 12th grade level, but a younger kid wants to read it, or an early teenager wants to read a book. But you get, especially these days, there's a lot of older great literature that's a couple hundred years old, and it's in English, but the English is kind of it's harder to read. And so could you do something that would like on the fly translate it to use more modern words, or sometimes more modern spellings, right? Sometimes you just get like the way a certain word is spelled is different. So doing things that just make it easier to consume a book that you might otherwise struggle with. I've also, I actually presented this at a game conference not too long ago, and the one thing people kept bringing up was effectively like the cognitive load of reading. And for me, when I think of that, I think of in the Lord of the Rings, the Silmarillion from J.R.R. Tolkien, which is like just a bunch of small stories that are all connected to each other, but there's like dozens and dozens and dozens of characters, and some of them like disappear and then they don't pop up for another 100 pages. But then when they come back, it's as if like you're supposed to know who they are, and it's just impossible to keep track of unless you got a notebook. So having something that would let you keep track of a character that you haven't seen in 3 chapters would be amazing. Fix some of the old language quirks, or like update language to make it easier for someone who's not as versed in those terms to be able to follow along with the story and not just get fed up with the book and put it down. There isn't a working Klingon translator, so you would be the first. Also no Picardy OCR, so you'd be the first there too. Yeah, so I mean, I'm playing around with this. I'm gonna see where it goes, right? And if I can get the first version of this thing working, then a lot of it's gonna come down to what do people want. Oh, hey, now I'm realizing somebody has jumped into YouTube and I didn't even notice. Sorry about that. What's up, Lightning? What are you making? So that was from 12:55, so not too long ago. VR app in Godot. The source code is closed, Lightning, if you're still there, but you're more than welcome to look at what I'm streaming and copy whatever you can visually steal. But yeah, I'm doing a VR app that's doing OCR. So I'm doing... well, actually, it looks like Lightning kind of jumped away. Sorry, I didn't notice your message. I'm not used to people jumping into both Twitch and YouTube. Usually it's one or the other, so I end up just chatting with whoever's there. Let me see here. What was I up to? Okay, so we're stuck here. Okay, so the issue is OCR in assembly. You mean like re-implementing code-wise in assembly? That is the one interesting thing with vibe coding. I have been prototyping a lot in Python. So I will, for OpenCV especially, I'll write OpenCV in Python first and experiment with it. Because I also have that on my laptop, right? So I can just kind of throw it down anywhere and experiment. And then when I've got something the way I like, just having an AI rewrite it in C++. And it's very accurate. Occasionally it makes a small mistake, but nothing that doesn't take 2 seconds to fix. So I wonder how easy it's going to be. Are you going to start seeing a lot more like take current version of app and just rewrite it in assembly or whatever, like the most performant thing ever? And then actually, yeah, as a developer, then do a lot of developers end up coding in things like Python, and then part of the build step for your CI/CD pipeline is like rewrite it in a lower language for deployment. All right, you get banned. There you go. Get out of here. All right, so what's going on here? So it's saying it's a bad OCR chunk. We end up with a bad OCR chunk. So success should have been false, right? Well, actually, hold on. So in this case, it should be greater than 0. But it wouldn't be, right? So this is going to be chunk 1. Page score is 41. Should be new page score, right? All right, this is going to be new chapter, right? Fine. -k new for the new chapter test. We'll just run that one test. Yeah, so new page score is 41. So we got to here. So if we're not updating existing, but we had success, but then how would the... Yeah, my head is wrong here. So it is chunk 1. So we are updating an existing page. Updating existing page. No, updating existing, so we're adding on to a new chunk. Old page. Getting the new page. Right, we're appending. Gotcha. So that's the mistake I made. So we need to go get the old page line count. And we need to just check that. Now it'll work. Cool. That was just an edge case bug. Let me see here. This is still probably running, right? How am I on time? I'm probably going to stop streaming soon. Got to get some lunch. Let's see here. Yeah, I'll probably stop soon. Okay, 7208. We are better, actually. We're scoring better than we were before. 6.7 seconds, 6.4 seconds. 98.4, 98.4, 93.1217, 94.88. Okay. So we're back to where we were. This one, we're actually getting a score for new chapter, which is bringing us our average score up a little bit. But that's fine. That's going to be the next thing I'm going to fix. So we're good. That works. That means that... Can I be slightly more aggressive on this then? If I go to 40... I think I had tried 40 before. And I think actually, in hindsight now, I'm thinking I got stuck on the one test, so I decided not to do that. But I want to be as aggressive as we can be. Without... Yeah, I don't want to go too low, basically. let's see here. So shaky is 90.5. Shaky 90.5. Okay, so we lost shaky. The other two are okay. Angled is 94.88. And then 98.4. So it was just shaky that we lost, which is an older test, I believe. It would score worse. But okay, I think I'll drop it down to 35. I think that's good. I think really what that means is then I guess, like, would there... I'll have to decide. I'm going to live with this for now. But there is a chance, because I guess before the way this scoring worked was, did we have at least one or two words in the sentence that scored really well? In which case, the line's good. Now I'm doing the average score of all the words. Which I guess means there's probably a couple of words that score highly. Actually, if we go look at shaky. What's shaky's deal? Left, right. Here's shaky. So in the first chunk, like, bad line, couple of decent lines, bad line, bunch of good lines. So you have these one-off random lows that come in. And then here, like, again, this 56 is not great, but we have a bunch of 70s and 80s for the scores. But again, we would lose these random one-off lines. But see, that only matters. Is that true? We're in a while loop here. So we get the line. If the line scored well. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Like, we're adding the chunk to the existing page. So if it's a new page, we just do it. Let me think here. I'm missing something here. Let me think. Right, so we're finding a match. And if we find a match, see, this is where I wonder. I don't know. I could decide later. Maybe this check shouldn't be happening here or at all. Because we either should be maybe accepting the whole chunk as it is or not at all. So one approach could be do a while loop, get all the lines, like, you know, just create a new page, right? Do we, I guess we're, yeah, like, should this function just return a new page that is just made up of that chunk? And then separately we can say, hey, look, if the score for all the lines is above a threshold, then go through the process of trying to find its match. Okay, that could be good. Let me add a note for myself for that. So, to do, consider refactoring this like this. If, like, just return a new page that has all the lines from this chunk. If page score is above a certain threshold, keep, kill the whole chunk. Then merge it in with an existing chunk, if needed. That would simplify this code a bit. That means this function would be just about getting a chunk where we're parsing the XML. We wouldn't be doing all this logic would get ripped out. And then down here, we would get, well, we would get a new page, right? Every time. We would check its, so in this case, we're checking if we found good lines, right? Instead, we would actually get the page score. Like if the page score is above a certain threshold, then, you know, we would improve this logic here. I'm not going to do that in this PR. I'll probably make that a task on my task board. By the way, only OCR one page. This got done, only OCR on one page. Yeah. I gotta go through my task board, which I'm not gonna do right now. Alright, this is good enough though. But yeah, so then I would be averaging these. And in fact, what do we see then? So when we run shaky, with the first chunk, we're above 70 on the page score once we average all of them. I mean, I guess we could still do a line score to like trim out the trash lines, but then we could set that really low to like 20 or something like that to say like, look, unless the line is above 20%, like just throw it away. So that one's above 70, 75, 76. 77. Yeah, okay. Where's my log statements? Maybe I'll keep these log statements here for now. And then the line one, I'll just comment that out. And let's run one final test before I push up this code and call it a day for streaming. Although I will spend the afternoon working. All right, I'll go have fun. Later, Toby. Thanks for hanging out. I will spend the afternoon on this, though, to see if I can finish this up. See if I can knock out these last two tasks, get this merged, and then move on to like the sparse text detection improvements to see if I can fix that test that's scoring 0 right now. Yeah, cool. 93.2, right? Slightly better, 93.2. 88, 40. Cool. Great. All right. Let's see. Git status-s. Git diff just to see what we're working with here. OCR manager. Yep, we changed some of the scoring. Added a to-do. Fixed a bunch of small bugs. And the back end, yeah, okay. All right, so git commit -m. Fixed bugs and refactored. lines quality scoring. Git push origin. Book detection and position improvements. Boom, there we go. I will probably update this now. Let's do that. This is our new benchmark. So now we're at 72, well, 6.7 was the other one, right? 6.5. So better score, slightly faster, probably incidental. I mean, I'm streaming right now, so actually if I wasn't streaming, this number would probably be even lower. All right, cool. I think that's gonna be it then. Thank you for those who hung out. Lightning, sorry I didn't notice your messages until too late. Toby, enjoy your assembly code. I guess this is the message I've received, is that it's good that I'm not vibe coding on stream. All right, well, have a good one. I'll be streaming on Wednesday.